What does dreaming of grasshoppers mean? If you find yourself dreaming of grasshoppers, chances are you would wake up and forget about your dream. Grasshoppers, after all, are small insects and they're very easy to overlook. Indeed, in any given field, in any area where there are a lot of plants, I am sure you will find grasshopper, either individually or in groups. Grasshoppers are everywhere. And that's why dreams about these animals are so problematic. They are so common that it's very easy for most people dreaming about these animals and the meaning behind such symbols quickly overlook just how important their dream is, and they forget about their dreams. That's really too bad, because if you just focused on grasshoppers, you can gain very important insights regarding how your life's going and what the future holds for you. Now, before we dig deep into the meaning behind these animal symbols in your dreams, keep in mind that grasshoppers are quite different from locusts. Locusts are hard to overlook. They travel in swarms, they can eat up all sorts of vegetation, and it's very ominous when you see a locust swarm or infestation or invasion. It's safe to say that when you dream of locusts, it's usually a negative sign. There's something going on in your life and things are not heading in the right direction. Since they are generally harmless, grasshoppers are easy to overlook and, let's face it, easy to dismiss. Chances are they're just one of the many dreams that you experience in a typical 8-hour sleeping period. If you're like most people, you probably would remember those dreams of locusts or dreams of witches or being chased by the devil or possibly being eaten up by cannibals more than if you dreamed of a field or some sort of plant life with grasshoppers on them. They're just so easy to forget. But if you have been dreaming of grasshoppers and they are the central motif or image of your dream, do not disregard these six-legged insects. They are appearing again and again for a reason. It's time to sit up and pay attention. Your subconscious is trying to get across very nuanced, but nonetheless important truths about your daily waking life. These might exactly be the kind of messages that you need to be aware of so you can level up your waking existence. Grasshopper dream meaning and interpretation. At its most basic, a grasshopper symbolizes your natural side. This is the part of you that is at one with nature. With all things being equal, you are part of the natural flow of life and you contribute to the balance of nature. What does this mean in practical terms? This means that your grasshopper dream relates to your power to get along with others and be part of the flow of value among people. The fact that you have a job or you have a business where you make money comes from a connection with other people. This is a fact that shows that you have to be connected in terms of a value chain with other people. Otherwise, you wouldn't be employed. Otherwise, you wouldn't be earning that money. That's the bottom line. It's all about connection. A grasshopper symbolizes your ability to provide value. Why would people pay you money? Why would people hire you in the first place? Why would people patronize your business? It all boils down to one central truth. It's all about value. They don't care about you at the end of the day. They could buy that bread or they can order that writing service or whatever it is you do for a living from somebody else. But why you? Because they're looking for you to provide certain goods, do certain things for them. It's all about their needs. If you can wrap your head around this, then you can understand that you are part of a natural cycle of value flow. People pass around money much like blood pumping through veins or sap moving around a plant because of a value interchange. Grasshopper images in our dreams reconnect us with this fundamental truth. We provide value to others just as others pass on value to us. If we are disconnected from this social network of value, not only do we not make any money, But pretty soon we start to die because the water, the food, the shelter, and necessary services that we depend on a day-to-day basis are provided by other people, just as we provide important services to others. Do you see how this works? That's why it's really important to understand the centrality of social networks, social value transport or flow in your life. It's part of this natural human cycle. Be aware of the part you play in social balance. Wherever you go, you have an influence on people. I know that's kind of hard to believe for many people. A lot of people are convinced they're other face in the crowd, and if they die, the world wouldn't notice. In fact, a lot of people are convinced that if they pass away, that the world would actually become a better place. That's quite depressing and sad and pathetic. The reality is that everybody has value. Even if it just means that you're there to say the right word at the right time to the right person so they can go on to do great things, you have done your job. If you were to look at the past record of your life and you were to be given this magical ability to closely analyze all the people you've come into contact with throughout the many decades of your life, at least a few of those people went on to do great things. Some of those individuals might even be very famous or powerful. We're all interconnected. You've probably heard of the 6 degrees of separation. This is absolutely true. No person is an island. And if you understand that you have an influence on people, no matter how small, you will realize just how important balance is in your life. And because if you develop a healthy attitude regarding social balance, you will never beat yourself up and say that you're unimportant or whatever it is you do doesn't really make much of a difference. And when you do this, you start reclaiming your power to influence destiny. And this enables you to become part of this unified, larger reality that is bigger than you and outlives you. But that's still part of your, shall we say, philosophical or spiritual DNA. We're all part of this grand experience called humanity that transcends time and place. So when you start developing this consciousness, you can't help but develop a sense of self-worth and self-esteem. You have to stop looking at your small individual activity and think about what would happen if you stopped. Remember, we're all interconnected. The grasshopper signifies your self-worth. Since so many people feel so small and insignificant, they automatically confuse this with a sense of powerlessness. You may be thinking to yourself, what's the value of my vote? It's only one vote after all. You might also be thinking, what's the value of the dollars in my pocket? I make less than $75,000 a year. How far will that go? How much of an impact will that make? I can go down the line. There's a long list of self-deprecating and self-degrading and self-diminishing questions that people ask themselves constantly. So many people believe in their own smallness that they fail to see just how big of a role they play when their daily activities are added up. The truth, you are not alone. Sure, you may be making, let's say, $20,000 a year, but there are tons of people making that amount. And when you put all those purchasing decisions together, you put all that capital value together, that's a lot of money. That money has an impact. That money has to go somewhere. That money has to build things and be spent on things. Do you see how this works? And you have a role to play in that. And even if there's a small change in how you choose to do things, you best believe that it will have a big impact on the economy or in social relations, because when you start doing things differently, don't be surprised if other people start doing things differently or start reacting to your actions in such a way that it creates big effects. The beating of butterfly wings and tropical storms. Since we're talking about small insects like grasshoppers, I want to draw your attention to the old idea of butterfly wings beating somewhere in the Amazon jungle. On the surface, it may seem like not much of anything is happening because, hey, let's face it, it's so far away and it's so small. After all, it's just one butterfly. But if you think about the disturbance or the effect or disruption caused by one small incident that takes place somewhere far away and the reaction of the world to that event, it's not a surprise that seemingly small and insignificant actions taken somewhere else can have a big and profound impact where you are in the world. That's where this idea of butterfly wings beating somewhere in the Amazon jungle will have triggered some storm somewhere else in the world far, far away. Something significant, something seemingly insignificant can cause significant results. There are big factors that you're part of, and a lot of them are unseen. But when taken together, all these seemingly small decisions can add up to great positive or negative forces. Just take the case of the computer or gadget that you are using to read this blog post or watch this video. Do you think the people who designed and built that really cared about you? No. Their primary concern was to make money. But by taking care of their needs, by producing things that people actually would want to buy, they ended up improving your life. Because on your computer or on your gadget, you can do work. You can make money. You can communicate with your loved ones. You can do so many different things. All those things are amazing and wonderful. But at the end of the day, the reason why that gadget or a piece of equipment was invented in the first place was because somebody, somehow, somewhere wanted to make money. Do you see how this works? So be at peace with this, that the self-interest, when viewed from this macro or large-scale perspective, can actually be a good thing. The same way with your job. If you're like most Americans, you probably hate your job. You probably hate what you do for a living. You're not having a good time. But there you are, putting in the work day after day. And when you do that, you still provide value to the people who pay good money to get that service or to buy the product that you produce. Do you see how this works? So at the end of the day, it has less to do with your feelings and more to do with where you fit in this interconnected, massive infrastructure of value. Everybody is interconnected. Everybody is joined at the hip. We may not be fully aware of it, but decisions made somewhere, far away, somewhere hidden, have a way of changing our lives and making a big impact wherever we are. Taking responsibility for your impact. Now that you know that everybody's interconnected, and now that you know that you are not cut off or there's some sort of impact in what you do, take ownership of it. This is where the rubber meets the road, because a lot of people are unhappy with how much money they make. A lot of people are insecure regarding their financial standing or the kind of things that they enjoy on a day-to-day basis in life. Maybe they feel that they live in a house that is too small, or they don't even live in a house at all. They're renting. Maybe they feel that they should have a car or their car isn't good enough. I can go down the list. Please understand that those are effects of causes that you are in control of. Just as you are connected with a vast social and economic network, your decisions are connected to your mindset. Your decisions are connected to outcomes. Who you are outside, and I'm talking about how much money you make, where you are in the social hierarchy, how people respect you, or if they respect you at all, they all come from inside. They're all reflections of your inner world. So if you want things to change on the outside, if you want to make more money, if you want to get more respect, if you want to be more attractive to members of the opposite sex, change what's on the inside. And this is where your mindset is. You can control your mindset. You can control how you choose to see reality. And by doing so, you control your emotional responses that you repeat again and again. And the more control you have over that process, the more control you have on the actions you take on a day-to-day basis. Let me tell you, nothing in your life will change until and unless you change what you do on a day-to-day basis, because it is your actions that the world pays attention to. The world couldn't care less about your intentions and motivations, but you best believe it will sit up and pay attention to what you do, because for every action, there is a reaction. Choices matter. And if you want to live a more powerful, meaningful, and impactful life, make better choices. Now, what defines better? Because for some people, better means just having a bottle of beer every day and making do with the basics. They don't want to live in a big house. They don't want to go on fancy vacations. They just want to hang out. That's fine. Just be clear with how you define better, how you define the good life. And once you have a clear definition, start mapping out the choices that you need to make or the changes that you need to undergo to produce that outcome. Again, you have more control over this process than you give yourself credit for. And if you have any kind of concern regarding the world, lifting people out of poverty, improving the environment, helping animals, so on and so forth, please remember this very fundamental truth. Now that you know how interconnected you are when it comes to consequences with other people and the world, and how physical manifestations and physical changes actually come from deep within you because of your mindset and your decisions, it naturally follows that a better world starts with you. A better world starts with you. As Gandhi famously said, be the change that you want to see in the world. Sadly, so many people expect other people to change. So many people demand other people to hand them the world they want to live in. What's wrong with this picture? It's you living in the world. The world is what it is because of your decisions. You're part of the mix. If you were seeing problems, then you're part of the problem. So if you want your world to change, start with yourself. This means changing how you think, changing your perspective regarding your impact as a person. You may be thinking, well, I'm just another life on this planet. I'm too small. What's the big deal? How far would this go? How big of a difference can I make? Well, you'd be surprised. Just like a grasshopper nibbling away at a blade of grass in one infinitesimally small corner of a field, when you multiply those grasshoppers, famine is around the corner. Do you see the power of scale? Now flip this over. Look at the other side of the equation. You may be engaging in a small act of kindness. Maybe you helped somebody cross the street, or you knock on your neighbor's door to see if they're okay and you give them some food. Now multiply that, scale that up. Do you see how awesome that world is? You see how random acts of kindness can make all the difference in the world? Because believe it or not, just as grasshoppers can multiply and replicate, so can your actions. And by wrapping your mind around this reality, you can trigger it. You may be thinking to yourself, well, I help other people. I'm trying to do the best I can. Well, be at peace with that. Don't expect instant results. Because if enough people are at peace with that and they're doing their thing in their small corner of the planet, guess what? It's only a matter of time until it scales up. And you end up in a completely different world, something that's more positive, something more compassionate, kind, and gentle. We are mirroring creatures. That's why we magnify small changes. Now you may be thinking that I'm spouting out some sort of fantasy theory here. Maybe you're saying, well, this is all great on paper, but this doesn't really play out in real life. Think again. Human beings mirror each other. Attitudes are infectious. There's a tremendous amount of truth in the saying, birds of a feather flock together. If you don't believe me, sit up and pay close attention when you are with your friends. You would notice that for the most part, you guys agree on a lot of things. That didn't happen by accident, because the main reason you're friends in the first place is because you have shared interests. You see how this works? So if one of you starts changing the way you look at things and you both share the same values, don't be all that surprised if your friend starts changing as well and their other friend starts changing, because you all operate from the same set of shared interests, which point to shared values. So if one of you started looking at things differently but it still have the same values, that little change, especially if it brings some sort of advantage or it enables you to do things faster, better, or get better results, can't help but be replicated. Now, think about your small group of friends influencing other small groups of friends, and so on and so forth. The chain reaction is faster and more explosive than you care to realize. Mirroring leads to tremendous change, and it starts with you. Mirroring leads to rapport. One fundamental truth about the human experience is that we tend to like people who are like us. That's the bottom line. They don't have to physically look like us, but if they talk like us, or they see the world like us, they have the same assumptions, or they have the same traditions and customs or languages, we feel more at ease with them. And this is why it's really important to understand the power of mirroring. You may be thinking to yourself, well, I'm just one person. How much of an impact can I have? Well, if people find you likable, or they agree with you because of your shared values, they may start mirroring you. And those people are mirrored or cloned by others, and so on and so forth. Do you see the exponential effect? Again, don't sell yourself short. You have a lot more influence than you care to realize. What does similarity have to do with multiplying your personal impact? It has everything to do with your personal impact, because when people see that you are close enough or similar enough to them, they feel that they can trust you, or that at least they can feel that they can learn something new from you. Keep in mind that people don't have this attitude with strangers. We tend to block ourselves off, and we're constantly suspicious of people that we feel are just too different from us. But when you are similar enough, all that skepticism goes away and people are more open. So whatever it is that you are experimenting with, or whatever changed concept or new idea or insight that you may have, no matter how small it is, it starts to spread, because people mirror each other. People give each other the benefit of the doubt. And from person to person, to group, it starts to grow. Don't confuse your low self-esteem and lack of self-regard with lack of impact. I get it. You may feel really, really small. You may feel that there's really nothing you can do in this world, because it seems that the world's best days are behind it. All the good things, the big things, the great accomplishments and achievements, they've been done and finished by people so much better than you. This is you thinking. This is you talking. But the truth is, your small impact, much like a small grasshopper nibbling away at some blades of grass, when multiplied and scaled, not just in terms of place, but also in time, can have a deep and profound impact. This is why it's really important when you are trying to make changes in the world. Maybe you are a Christian or you're a Muslim and you're trying to evangelize. Please remember that more people are converted when they see the change in somebody they know. So that could be your contribution to the world, So you were one way. Maybe you used to drink a lot, screw around with other people's partners, cheat, lie, and steal. And now you don't. What do you think happens? That's right. The black and white change is going to get people to ask questions. What happened to you? What accounts for this change? And then they can see, now you read the Bible. Now you take God seriously. And you are so convicted about this new faith that you have made a complete 180-degree change. You say sorry, you beg for forgiveness, you help those who are weak, poor, and defenseless, and you went from a very selfish person to somebody who's self-sacrificing. In that situation, people can't help but ask questions, and this can lead to conversions. Because believe it or not, people are not going to be converted by Bibles, religious tracts, copies of the Quran. Instead, your life is probably the only Bible or Quran they will ever get to read. And if they see fundamental change there, and I'm talking about self-sacrificing love, the kind of love that is, let's face it, absent in most people's lives, they will pay attention. In fact, it will make you very attractive because you have something that is so rare that people desire it. Because this is the kind of love that the world needs desperately. Let me be clear. The world is full of takers. These are people who define themselves as I, me, mine. I want to go up. I want to gain more. I want to do this. I want this and that. These types of people take. And this is basically everybody. And if you are the type of person because of some religious or spiritual conversion who shifts from taking and taking to giving and giving, you best believe people will sit up and pay attention because you are the salt of the earth. Thank goodness the world isn't overrun by takers and there's still a lot of givers. When you choose to become a giver, you choose to make the world a better place. Allow yourself to feel big. You may feel small. You may think that if you die, the world is not going to care, much less notice. Well, the truth is, everybody is watching you. Because we're all small. We're all shackled to at some form of death at some level or other. That's the reality of life. Life is suffering. And when we see somebody rise up and become a hero because of changes in their minds and changes in how they do things, and they put themselves out there, and they get beaten up, but despite the challenges, setbacks, and pain, they keep going at it until they overcome. You best believe people will see you. People will salute you and wish they were you. Because at that point, you become an inspiration. It takes courage to do that. And you don't have to start out grandiose. You don't have to run for the presidency of the United States. Believe it or not, it can start with something so basic that anybody can do it. What am I talking about? Jordan Peterson, the famous psychologist, said, if you want to change, start with cleaning your room. Start there. You'd be surprised as to what kind of chain reaction you can trigger because you're not this small grasshopper. You're bigger than that. At least your impact is. So no matter how small you see yourself, understand that we're all interconnected and we're all hungry and desiring for something bigger and better than us.